Frank, this is such a great honor, and so many good people have been recipients of this award, including Ronald Reagan and Caspar Weinberger and John Kyle, Jim Inhofe. So to be named in that group is really something that I cherish and value, and the Center, Frank, fights for America every day. It's a dangerous world we live in. There are a lot of things out there that we can't anticipate. Secretary Gates, before the Armed Services Committee today, was just brilliant, I thought. He said we've prepared for the future consistently, but consistently the future we prepared for is wrong. Some other war or challenge to us occurs, and he dictated a number of those instances in which we were unprepared and events happened that we wouldn't have expected to happen. So a strong national defense, peace through strength, is a fundamental principle in America, and we have to adhere to that. Just for your information, we expect that the President will veto the Defense Authorization Bill. The reason is it increases the defense spending to the level the Defense Department wanted and to the level the President requested, a little above it actually. But it does, we are not committed and we are not in favoring of creating more money for the non-defense account. So the President, the Commander-in-Chief, is saying essentially, Republicans, I know you care about defense, and I know you want defense, but I don't really worry about that. I want the non-defense, and if you don't give non-defense, I'm going to veto defense. And that is, I think, an unsustainable position for the President of the United States to take. And in a normal world, it seems to me that you would have, if you have to spend more on defense, actually we do. We've got Crimea, we've got Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Yemen, and who knows what else threatening us that weren't out there a few months or a year or so ago, and we have to spend more money. So in the normal world, a person would cut other expenditures if they have to spend more on an emergency. And all of this, I got to tell you, is in large part due to the President's ineffective foreign policy that's placed us in this position. John Kyle is one of the finest people ever to serve in the Senate. We miss him tremendously. I just want to say, John, you are the best of the best, and I'm honored to have learned under you and tried to be worthy of your leadership. We did fight in a lot of battles together, and it was great. I've been engaged in the immigration debate. I just want to tell you that we have the largest immigration legal system in the world. We have 4 times more immigrants than any other country in the world. We're very generous in that regard. We admit 1 million people a year. At the rate we're on, legally, are given green cards, and they're given green cards and permanent residence, and many others are here and would seek to get that. And so we're on a generous path for immigration. And then we have the illegality. And the American people legitimately ask their country and their government officials to produce for us an immigration system that's lawful, that we can be proud of, and serves our interest. Not some special interest, but my interest. And we have today the lowest percentage of Americans working that we've had since 1970. We have jobs in the next 50 years, according to Pew, we'll have 14 million people increase in the United States population-wise in the working years, and 103 immigrants coming. We'll reach the highest percentage of foreign-born in the United States in our history in 7 years, and it continues every year thereafter to increase. So I will just say to you, we're a generous nation. We're a nation of immigrants, but we need a lawful system, and that system should serve the interests of the American people. That's who we represent. Frank, thank you for helping us in that regard. And it produces a national security issue for us. Since 9/11, we've admitted 1.5 million people from Muslim countries. We're admitting 30,000 plus from Syria this year, and that is expected to increase. We expect it to increase our refugees to 200,000 over the next year, a majority probably from the Middle Eastern area. We cannot solve the refugee crisis in the Middle East by depopulating the countries of the Middle East. That's just not a solution. We need a solution that works and has some common sense to it and a value to it. So I would say that we need to have safe zones in Syria. Europe's going to have to wake up and deal with their crisis, and we can't be pushed into ever-increasing numbers of refugees from the Middle East. It just makes no sense at all, and I'm worried about it. The numbers are great. We have 1 million. I understand Admiral Lyons mentioned the unfortunate turn of events in Libya. Many predicted that would happen. If you read Secretary Gates' book, he and 8 of the people who voted against the action in Libya. Secretary of State Clinton and Condoleezza, Susan Rice and several others voted for it, and the president chose to do that. Now we have 1 million refugees on the North African coast trying to get to Europe. And that's a very unfortunate event. And we have to ask ourselves, when we enter into adventures militarily, what are going to be the long-term consequences of it? It's a difficult thing indeed. So let me suggest to you this, and I asked Secretary Gates today, and he gave a brilliant answer, I thought, agreed with me, but he said it better than I could have said it. I believe if you examine the Middle East, what we're having today is a spasm of extremism bursting out. For a whole lot of reasons, I wish it weren't so, it just is. It's happened various times throughout the nature of Islam. Most of the people are good and decent people. They're not violent, and they don't want to cause trouble, and they're not trying to attack people who don't agree with them. But there is within that community a significant number who believe the Quran calls for this, justifies it in their minds, and they're aggressive in their worldview. So I think that we've got to understand that. And we need to develop a strategy. It needs to be a bipartisan strategy. And that strategy needs to continue beyond the next election as to how we, in a most sophisticated way, can interact with the violence that is going on there and to contain it in a way that's sophisticated and smart. Each area of the Middle East is different. They've got different sects, Shia, Sunni, Kurds, so forth. They have different tribes, different nations, different cultural groups, different interests, politically and economically, and we need to understand that as we relate to this complex area of the globe. But a consistent, sustained policy over a long period of time is absolutely essential. And the President of the United States, after nearly 8 years in office, has not done so. And Secretary Gates said that today. We do not have a strategy, and we need a strategy. And it needs to be a containment-like strategy that we used against the Soviet Union, and Kennan did in the long telegram, to contain the expansion of communism. And we stood firm, and our allies, for the most part, stood firm, and we were able to see that regime collapse. And I believe we need to have a similar type policy today, and it's absolutely critical. And I've talked to Democratic colleagues, and they know it's so. And I think we can get some bipartisan support in the Congress for it. Certainly, I don't see that possible before this administration is over. Thank you all for supporting your country. There are a lot of threats out there, a lot of dangers that we face. We're going to bring forward, before it's all over, a good defense budget that will increase the defense spending well over the sequester. Sequester would be about $499 billion. We're probably going to be at about $538 billion. I think that's where we'll end up. And the question is, will we have to pay extortion by our Democratic colleagues to add an equal amount to the non-defense accounts, which I just don't think we can afford to do, since every dollar new on defense is borrowed and every dollar new on non-defense would be borrowed also. So again, it's a great honor for me to be with you. Mary and I appreciate your friendship, Frank, and we look forward to continuing to work with this center.